Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we are here today with lesson number 33 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are learning artificial intelligence on the Jetson Nano. I'm going to need you guys to pour yourself a nice big mug of iced coffee. And because today is a very special day, I will also be drinking some hot coffee. You can have either or both. Okay, what I'm going to need you to do now is get out your Jetson Nano gear. If you don't have your gear yet, look in the description down below. There's a link to all the same hardware that I'm using. Also, want to take a second, as always, and thank you guys that are helping me out over at Patreon. Your help and your decision to become an active participant in this channel is a huge encouragement to me. You guys that aren't helping out yet, look down in the description below. There's a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and let's start learning some really cool stuff. Now, if you remember where we left off in lesson number 32, we could track on something like a pen, something that had a distinct color. We could find it, we could identify it, we could box it, and then we could move the camera around to point at it. Just a little note, you might hint that I have a little bit of a cough today. Never fear, I do not have the coronavirus, but I am very allergic to bleach. Okay, I'm very allergic to bleach. That's the only thing that causes me problems is bleach. Well, in the midst of a coronavirus pandemic, guess what the cleaning ladies spend their time doing? Going up and down my room, spraying bleach everywhere. So I indeed am a little bit wheezy today, but don't worry, as soon as I get out of this room with the bleach, I go back to normal, so nothing to fear. Okay, what we are going to learn today is something really cool. We are going to learn how to do face detection. And so this is kind of like our next big step into the field of artificial intelligence. What we've been tracking on so far is something simple like color. Well, we're going to take all the things that we learned in lessons number 1 through 32, and we're going to begin to apply them to start doing more artificial intelligence. Now, I've got to say one thing really quick. You've got to understand the difference between face detection and facial recognition. What face detection does is it recognizes any face in a picture and it says, hey, here's a face, draws a box around it or does something else. Face recognition is if you have 10 different people and it recognizes who is who. That's a lot harder. What we are going to start with today is we're going to start with face detection. It's going to look at the image and it's going to find and box the faces. Now, in order to do this, you have to have training sets, okay? And these are called like Haarcascades, okay? They're called Haarcascades. And the good news is there's a lot of training sets out there. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go out and grab some of those training sets that already exist, and then we are going to be using those pre-trained models to do things like recognize faces and recognize eyes and so forth. Okay, so that would be what we're going to focus on today. Now later on, I hope that we actually go in and start working on things like facial recognition where we can recognize people, but small steps, baby steps before we take big steps. Okay, so let's jump on over here and let's see if we can start working on this thing. So I mentioned that you got to get your Jetson Nano gear out. I need to come over here and open up a fresh new Visual Studio window, and I'm going to create, I guess I need to show my thing here, and let's see. We're going to go to PiPro. And we are going to be looking at OpenCV. We're going to create a new file. And let's see, where did we end up? It looked like the last was OpenCV 20. Well, we're going to call this OpenCV 21. And we're going to call it face detect.py. And you can see that, right? I guess I better get out of your way here before you start yelling at me. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think you guys can see that. OpenCV Face Detect Pi. All right, so we have a fresh new program. Now we need to go over and we need to go to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com. And this is our standard starting program where we're starting the Raspberry Pi camera. And you can just go to toptechboy.com and search on Raspberry Pi camera, and you should come up with this lesson. Then we're going to come down here to our trusty starting code, because every week we do not want to develop the whole program from scratch. We're going to come over here and we're going to Control V that in there. And then I think today I will be using the Raspberry Pi camera. And so we're going to uncomment out these two lines, which are the ones that allow us to use the Raspberry Pi camera. If you're using a webcam, instead you would comment out this line, and you would possibly make that either a 0 or a 1, depending on what all you have hooked up to your particular Jetson Nano. Okay, also we like to move this window after we show it. CV2 dot move, let's see, CV2 dot move window. Yeah, I tried to select this. Doesn't want to fill it in. Select it over here. Okay, there it is. And then what do I want to move? I want to move Nano Cam. And then where do I want to move it? I want to move it to 0, 0. I think that's the way you do it. I can't remember if that's parentheses there or not. But let's go ahead and run this just to make sure that I did that right. Okay, so we're going to right mouse click, run Python file in terminal. Okay. Hello. That looks like it's working. Got what we wanted. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to start thinking about how to detect faces. Well, if we're going to do that, what we need to do is we need to get one of those pre-trained models that will allow us to detect faces. And so why develop a data set on our own if we can go and download a model to get us started? So we're going to come up, and what we want to search on is we want to search on Haarcascades for OpenCV. And if you look at that, that's Haarcascades for OpenCV. And if we search on that, you can see that you get this first site, at least for me, it's the first result, github.com, going to OpenCV, going to OpenCV, going to tree, going to master, going to data, going to Haarcascades. Okay, do you see that? Do I need to... I wonder if I can make that a little bigger for you. Okay, you should be able to read that, I think, if you were having any problems with it. And then we're going to go there. Okay. And now what I'm going to also do is I'm going to open up my File Explorer here. And then remember, we are working in the PiPro folder, so we are going to go to Desktop, and then we're going to go into PiPro, and now I'm going to right mouse click and make a new folder, which I'm just going to call Cascade. That's a little bit easier to spell, just Cascade instead of Haarcascades. So we're going to put our Cascades in this folder. Okay, now the Cascade we're going to get is, you got to make sure you read these, because some of these look like it says frontal face, like to detect a frontal face, but if you look carefully, it's looking for a cat face. Now if you download the cat face and then you look in the camera and it doesn't recognize you, you're going to start getting frustrated. But it's because you're looking for a cat, not looking for a person. So what we want is we want this frontal face. There's Alt, 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 and then default. I'm going to use the default one. But guys, play around with those other ones. You can download the other ones and play with them and see which face detect you like the best. But I'm just going to use the default one here. I click on it. And it's a big file, so it takes a second to get to it. Hopefully it will find it. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let's try that again. Maybe it's thinking. Let's try it frontal, there it is. Okay, just takes a long time because it's a big file. Now you see this is the file you want. Also, make sure you look, this is training data that was done by Intel, and they have a license agreement. So if we're just playing around at home, things should probably be okay. But if you're like going to incorporate this into some sort of system for pay or something, you want to make sure that you're not violating their terms of service. And so make sure you read that license. Okay, but now to get this, what we're going to do is we want to come up here and click on raw. Okay, because that'll just take us to the file itself. Okay, you see now we got the raw file, and we're going to right mouse click and we're going to do save as. And where do we want to save it? We want to save it in Cascade. So you see I'm in Desktop, I'm in Pi Pro, I'm in Cascade. But I want to make this a little bit easier, so I'm just going to call this Face, because then when we have to load it, in a minute into OpenCV, it'll be easier to type. So just face.xml, I click on this as save. Okay, I'm going to kind of go back to where we were. And then let's come over here and let's look in Cascade. There it is, face.xml. That is exactly what we want. Okay, so I'm going to close that, and now we're going to go ahead and come over here. And before we start jumping into our loop where we're reading and showing the frame, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and load that Cascade. So I'm going to say face, and this is the face, I'll go ahead and call it Cascade, the face Cascade. We're going to load it, and we do that with cv2.cascade class, and you see it finds it Cascade classifier. All right, now we're going to have to give it some parameters. Okay, we're going to have to give it some parameters. And the parameters that we are going to give it is the file that we're going to load. Okay, now a lot of you kind of have your default set to Pi Pro, so you could just sort of go you could just sort of go into Cascade /file name, but everybody's system is set up a little different. So the safest thing is to kind of navigate down to that folder. And so I'm going to, to put the full path name from the root. And if you took my Linux lessons, you should know how to do that. Linux, however I say it, people get mad at me. So let's see. So we're going to come to Desktop, and then we're going to come to Pi Pro, and then we're going to come to Cascade. Okay, now I'm going to do properties on this, and this should kind of give me the file path. Okay, so right there it starts like this, and that is the path name. So it's let's see, I think I can actually copy that. So I'll do a Control-C. So that is copying it down to the folder. So I'm going to put a single quote, Control-V, and you can see that I put the path. Here is the parameter /home/PJM. You won't be PJM. I'm PJM. It'll be your username. Then Desktop Pi Pro Cascade, and notice it's case sensitive. If you're typing in, and make sure you get it all case sensitive, and make sure this is proper for where your Haarcascade is. And then what we're going to do is a slash, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put face.xml. All right, and now we need to close the parenthesis for us there. Okay. All right, so now we have our face Cascade. Okay, so now we're going to come in, we're going to read a frame from the camera, and then before we show it, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to turn that gray. Because when you're doing image recognition, when you're doing artificial intelligence, it takes a lot of computation power, so you got to throw out the color to begin with. It makes everything smaller, easier, and faster if you work with grayscale. So we're going to come up with gray. Okay, and that's going to be equal to, you should recognize this, cv2.cvt color. Okay, and then we're going to open that up. And what is it that we are going to convert? Well, we are going to convert frame, which is what the image that we read in. We read it in as frame in the line before, right? And now what I need to do is I need to convert it. So I'll say cv2 cv2, okay, dot color underscore BGR, that's blue, green, red, to gray. You see, I'm going to pick this one, BGR to gray, right there. Okay, you see that color underscore BGR to gray. So now I should have a gray image. Okay, now on that gray image, I want to see if I can find a face. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to see if I can find a face. So I'm going to say faces is equal to, and faces because it'll find all the faces in the picture. So it's going to return an array or a list that's a group of kind of box corners for the faces that it found. So this will make a little more sense as we go on. But first of all, we have to find them. So we're going to say faces is equal to face underscore cascade. And I got to make sure that's what I called it, face cascade. Yeah, face underscore cascade. You see this has to match this. Okay, so I called it face cascade. And that's kind of that training data that we loaded in. And so we're going to say face cascade dot. And then what I need to do is detect multi-scale. Okay, now I'm going to be trying to detect a face in what? Gray, right? I'm going to be trying to detect a face in gray, the image that we just turned into gray. And then what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to put a couple of parameters. And I'm just going to say 1.3 comma 5. You can just not put anything and it'll be the default ones. And if you want to know more about those parameters, you can Google on OpenCV detect multi-scale, and it'll tell you a little bit more. It's sort of like how accurate do you want to be, like where do you want to set your tolerance, and it's just kind of a couple of tweaking parameters. But don't tweak these parameters unless you go in and look it up. And I'm sorry, I want to get to the result today. I don't want to spend a lot of time on those two parameters. Okay, and then what we are going to do now is, so that should find the faces, and that will return faces. Faces will be a list of arrays. Each array will have the X and Y of the corner of the box. Like a box around my face, it would be the X and Y of the upper left corner of my face, and then the width of the rectangle and the height of the rectangle. So it's going to return 4 numbers. But since it could be more than one list, it's going to return an array of those, kind of like it's an array of an array, or an array of list, or a list of an array. Okay, so it'll be sort of like XY WH, and then XYWH and XYWH. It'll be a bunch of XYWHs in an array. Okay, we've run into things like that before, so that shouldn't scare you too much. All right, so now we want to step through. We want to step through those things. And so what we're going to do is we are going to say for. And what do we want to get? We want an X and a Y, and then a width and a height. So I want to get the X, comma, Y, comma, width, comma, height. In what? In that list faces. So each time through, I'm going to grab 4 numbers out of the list, and that'll allow me to draw a box around the faces. Be good boys and girls and put a colon at the end of your for loop statement there. All right. Now what we are going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle around the faces. So I'm going to say CV2 dot rectangle. All right. And then what do I want to draw a rectangle on? Well, my original frame. Okay. My original frame. And now I have to give it the upper left corner. Man, with this thing spinning around, I hope this is the upper left corner of my face. It is my upper left to me. Okay, so frame. So I need to give it the upper left corner, which is going to be X comma Y. We just grabbed that in setting up the for loop. And then I'm going to need the lower right. So it would this time be X plus W, all right, and then Y plus H. Okay, X plus W, and then Y plus H, all right? And then we're going to come down like that. And let's see. And then when we drop out of this thing, so inside that we're going to put the rectangles on, and then when we drop out of it, we are going to show it. Okay. Seems like it really could not be that easy. I really don't know that it could be that easy, but let me see if I can switch this thing over here so it'll be looking at me hopefully when it turns on. Okay. Does the suspense build here? The suspense really builds. And you can see that I've still got my little servo camera mounted, but we're not going to be using that one today. We are using the PiCam. Okay, I do in fact need everyone to take a big swig of iced coffee. And I really need everyone to hold their breath today, okay? And I should get rid of this nonsense here so you have a better view. Right mouse click, run Python file in terminal. Doesn't look very happy. What did it not like? It didn't like my, okay, if I'm going to draw a rectangle, my friend, if I'm going to draw a rectangle, were you guys yelling at me? If you're going to draw a rectangle, what do you have to do? You got to give it a color. So if I want red, it would be blue, green, red, so it would be 0, 0, 255. And then a line width, I need to give it a line width for it of 2, so it's kind of not a real thick box, but I think that would be kind of interesting. All right, so let's see if I can. Everyone hold their breath. Someone didn't hold their breath that time. Okay. I made a mistake. That was no good. Okay, I didn't hit run Python file in terminal. Right mouse click, hold your breath. Oh my goodness, we are really messed up here. When I didn't run that right, we got a problem down here. So let me see if I can Control C or Control D. Okay, there we are. This time for real, guys. Hold your breath, everybody. Oh, please. Why did it not like cam release? Oh, you know what? I think at this point, when I crash that with the camera running, I am going to need to save this. And I'm just going to kill Visual Studio. And then I'm going to open Visual Studio. You know, sometimes if you kill the program without releasing the camera, then it won't run the next time. Okay, and the good thing is it looks like it opened up where we want it. Right mouse click, everyone hold their breath. Oh! Ooh, it still doesn't like cam release. What is not good about cam release? While true, okay, that ended there. This is really perplexing because I would expect this to just be our standard program. This is indented, that is indented. We shouldn't, let's go back and look here just at, you know, sometimes you can introduce a little bit of an error. Cam release, CV2, destroy all windows. Oh, I took that break out, and that I did not need to take out. Remember, I thought that was an error, right? So this would be break. Okay, that was actually needed. I thought I'd inserted it when I ran the program. A little off my game today, huh? Okay, run Python file in terminal. Please, 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 please. Okay. Hey, look at that. That's not a face. Look at that. Boom! Facial detection accomplished. Mission accomplished. Look at that. First of all, I'm glad that I'm not so out of the ordinary that it doesn't recognize me as human. But look at that. Do you guys see that? Well, that's like 10, 15 lines of code. Let's see if we can find another face. This is actually the engineering magazine QST. This was one of my students, one of my engineering students, who was on the cover a while ago. Let's see if it will recognize her. Look at that. Recognizes her as human. It's a little harder in a picture of a magazine. Let's see if it'll get both of us. I want to try to show you, okay. I want to see if it'll recognize us both at the same time. I wish I had another person here. Let's see. Recognizes me. If I've done it right, it should recognize both, but I'm wondering if it's just doing one. So like if I get out of the picture. No, it's just not a, it's not a good enough, it's not clear enough, I think, like that. What I was wanting to see is if we could do two people at once, but the magazine turned out to not be a good idea. Plus she had a hat on, a hard hat, and she had her hand over her face. Okay, now one thing I want you to see is that there's limited ranges that it's sort of, when it says frontal face, it really means it. Okay, when it says frontal face, it really means it. So you see I can turn to a level. I wonder if I take my glasses off if it'll get a better range. Okay, you can see about 30 degrees either way. It will recognize you. Looking up, looking down seems to work. But also it doesn't like a tilted head. So you see it doesn't look at tilt. So very quickly, if it's not straight front and center, it doesn't work very well. All right, guys, is that pretty exciting or what? Is it just me, or is that pretty darn exciting that we are doing face detection now? Okay, now what your assignment is for next week, your assignment for next week is to not only detect your face like this, but to detect both eyes. So when we come back next week, what I want to see is a box around your face, and then a blue box around this eye and a blue box around this eye, where you have your face and both eyes. Okay, well, man, I give you guys too many hints. I really do give you guys too many hints. The hint I'm going to give you is if you come back to these Haarcascades, you can probably, if you come back to these Haarcascades, you can probably look through here and find some that would be eyes, like, oh, look, Haarcascade eye. You see, man, gotta stop giving you guys so many hints. You're gonna have to grow up and fly on your own one of these days, but you can see that. So I want you guys to go ahead and do that, and then what I will do in the next lesson, I'll take you through my selection, but I want your face, okay, and I want your two eyes. All right. Guys, leave me a comment down below. Did you enjoy this video? To me, I'm just really excited about it. I had a lot of fun with this. Also, remember to give me a thumbs up, okay? And again, man, I really appreciate you guys who are helping me out over on Patreon. It really means a lot to me right now. Kind of like a lot of crazy things going on in the world. I could just use any help that you could give me to keep these videos coming. I'm getting a lot of offers from people wanting me to do paid videos, like go and do them for some of the, very well-known, online training centers, and I don't want to do that. I want my stuff to be free, but you guys that can help me, I would appreciate if you would. Okay, enough of this shameless begging for Patreon help. I'm going to let you guys go. I will see you next Saturday when we release the video. So this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.